Is 3I Atlas a cylindrical, nickel-clad, green glowing spacecraft? Well, that seems to be what has been suggested by a particular scientist based on photographs from Mars, from the NavCam camera on the Perseverance rover. In fact, this is Dr. Horace Drew. He is a retired senior researcher at the Australian Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, Cicero, something like that. But anyway, he's saying that this object looks like a spacecraft, cylindrical, green glowing. And he thinks the green is attributable to nickel. Now, I got a challenge with that, but we'll come back to that. So, uh, the image from Perseverance NavCam camera does look cylindrical, but Avi Loeb, who has been the main proponent of saying this thing might be an alien spacecraft, actually has been the one disputing Dr. Drew's claims because Avi Loeb, he says, well, this could be due to a roughly a 10-minute exposure from the spacecraft from Perseverance's NavCam camera, overlaying hundreds of images over this 10-minute window, making a ball look like a log. But Dr. Drew said it's not a comet, and he's disagreeing with Loeb's conclusions that it and claiming it is a cylindrical shape, and he's basing this on an image from an amateur astronomer on Earth that he captured earlier with his telescope that makes it look similar. Now, I got to kind of challenge that because an amateur astronomer is not going to have a whole lot of resolution to this thing way out at Mars, especially if we're considering that the high-res camera from the Martian the reconnaissance orbiter is only, which can see a football field on the surface of Mars and Martian orbit, can only resolve a pixel out at where this comet's at. How is some amateur astronomer going to get a reliable picture? They may have the same issue, or maybe not. Interesting, interesting. We've got a lot to determine about this, but NASA is on leave right now. Actually, not on leave. They are shut down due to the budget dispute. But anyway, so what does Drew claim? He says that we can see an extended white shape with a green coma outside, not a small white ball, like you might say the dirty comet or even a dirty ball. But he's saying that's not what it is. And he's basing it on that astronomer's photograph as much as the one from the camera, which is the NavCam camera on the Perseverance rover. So this is interesting. We'd heard this photograph was a smudge previously. So I don't know, guys. This is getting, shall we say, rather interesting. So let me do a quick share screen. I'll show you this picture and then we'll stop sharing. But I just want you to see what he's talking about right there. What is it? Is this a smudge compiled from hundreds of frames taken over a 10-minute period? That's what Avi Loeb says. And Avi Loeb has been the chief candidate to date, claiming this thing might possibly be an alien spacecraft. But now we got, as I said, Dr. Drew Horace coming out claiming otherwise, saying, oh, it is. He said it's not a comet. So what do you think about this? What we're going to do here is we're going to talk about nickel and a lot of other things because to me, the big question is why do we have nickel outside? And the things that's really strange about that is the temperatures. There should not be, even if there were nickel on this asteroid, you shouldn't be seeing nickel in the coma. Especially should not have seen it when it was out at Jupiter. Now, why do I say that? I say that simply because of this. Nickel actually has a melting point of 1,455 degrees centigrade. It's got a boiling point of 2,900 degrees centigrade. centigrade. So it has to be really hot to melt and boil. Now, in space, what happens is materials sublimate in a vacuum. They don't have to be at the melting point or boiling point to lose material from the solid surface to gas. Things go from surface to gas in a vacuum rather fast. But nickel still requires a very high temperature for that to happen. And in fact, it's probably on the order of, let's talk Fahrenheit now. It'd be, well, it's 927 degrees centigrade, or in the Fahrenheit scale, it would be roughly 1700.6 degrees. That's 1700.6 degrees. So, oh, but Greg, yeah, it's hot in space. Well, not out at the orbit of Jupiter, not out at the orbit of Mars, because out at Mars, you got only 589 watts per square meter of solar insolence, the light intensity of the sun, and out at Jupiter, it's only 50. Now, it's like, 1.2 to 4 kilowatts out here in Earth orbit. So it's what you would expect on a spacecraft out at Mars would be only 41 degrees C or 106 degrees Fahrenheit, which is far shy of 1,700.6 degrees. And also Jupiter, well, it would be much colder. In Fahrenheit, it'd be minus 134 degrees, minus 92 degrees centigrade, negative, cold. Why is there nickel out in this coma, this gas cloud around this object? That makes no sense. Now, by comparison, see, the lead melts easier than nickel sublimates. Lead melts at 327.46 degrees centigrade or 621.43 degrees Fahrenheit. So to me, that is a big, big mystery. What is going on with this, and why does it glow green? We know that typically what makes a regular comet glow green is carbon-carbon, C2 atoms or molecules. Now, that's what causes the green glow and tail. There is none of that at any appreciable level in the tail of this thing. So, Dr. Drew is saying, well, it is he's saying that is the nickel. But I do have some issue with that myself, too. Maybe he does have a PhD in chemistry, but my friends, there's some odd things because solid nickel is kind of a silvery white color. Now, some things glow green when they fluoresce, but nickel is one of the moderators you use to control fluorescence to stop it. So why would nickel be fluorescent? It doesn't make any sense that nickel would fluoresce at all. Now, gaseous nickel, which we said earlier, you don't get it unless you get real high temperatures, but it still doesn't have a green color because it's not fluorescent. So I don't know what's going on with this whole thing about nickel. But now, nickel is used in glass. When you put it in glass, it can make in other compounds, you can get a green color out of it. Now, if you mix it with chloride or nickel sulfate dissolved in water, you can get a green color. But as a gas floating around in a comet, how does it make green? Well, I don't know. I don't have a PhD in astronomy, in chemistry, but normally that is not what you expect. So the fact that it has nickel in its coma is strange. Now, maybe it comes from the CO2. We do know that 87% of the coma by mass weight is CO2. CO2 in a solid form is known as dry ice. Dry ice will start sublimating at any temperature above absolute 0 degrees Kelvin. So, or, like minus 237 degrees Celsius. So dry ice does sublimate at a lot colder temperatures. But then why is there anything on this? If this comet or whatever this object is was covered with dry ice, why is it not all gone already? Maybe there's some on the inside, but why would it be heating up way out at Jupiter where it's so cold? What would be causing it to fissure from the inside? You'd have to have some temperature change that would cause that, and it's just not sufficient at the orbit of Jupiter. We were seeing this way out past the orbit of Jupiter, so this coma is still a mystery. And maybe, just possibly, there was nickel, pure nickel, mixed in with dry ice and some kind of odd mixture coming out. You can't say that's not the case, but in our solar system, on our Earth, and in meteorites, we don't find pure nickel in appreciable quantities. Sometimes it may be found in little inclusions in places where maybe there's been some melt or something going on. But nickel and iron are typically associated with each other. So this is, but unless it's a manufactured process. And this kind of does get us back to our good friend who's claiming that this is a manufactured object. So again, uh, Dr. Drew, he is saying that this thing is a artificial. He thinks Dr. Horst Drew thinks this thing is artificial. He, or at least not a comet. He specifically said this very morning in a post he put on X that it's not a comet. So this is fresh news. He did earn his PhD in chemistry from the California Institute of Technology. And he's looked at plenty of other previous images of interstellar objects. So this is not necessarily new to him, but he is making quite a claim here. Quite a claim. So we don't know what to think about this, my friends. We've got a dispute between Dr. Avi Loeb of Harvard and Dr. Horst Drew. So this is kind of interesting. And this time it's not Avi Loeb claiming, this might be artificial based on this evidence. Not on this evidence. Although he has plenty of other suggestions. For that, you should see my previous video on this topic. I'll put a link up at the end here to look at my previous video on this. So what is this? NASA's shutdown right now is really keeping us from getting the data we really need. But even from the high-res camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, we're only going to see probably a pixel, maybe two or three, because there's some claims that this thing might be 28 miles in diameter. But that's on kind of the outside. But 33 billion tons, however you want to shake it, seems to be the lower end of the weight estimate. So, my friends, no matter what you think, this thing is weird. It is weird, at least by our solar system standards, but then it does not come from our solar system. So what is it? What's going on with 3I Atlas? Now we do have claims, now for once, that it is a ring low in cylinder. Yeah, you don't hear sound in space. Unless you're watching Star Wars. Can't see lasers in space unless you're watching Star Wars, but that's another story. Or maybe even Star Trek. But anyway, my friends, this is, we can't see. It's on the other side of the sun. Now, we got to wait till early December to hope to get another glimmer as it gets closer to Earth. The closest approach is on the 19th of December. I hope we got a lot of good telescopes trained on it. So this is a mystery that will hold out for a couple months to come. In the meantime, keep looking up. The skies are strange. And we're learning more exciting stuff every day. And I'll be trying to bring it to you right here on Galactic Greg. So watch, bang the bell, and click all. And let's see what's next. Who knows? We might get some other crazy claims between now and then. But everything will be all right as long as this thing just stays on its merry way and goes out the solar system, or so we hope. Anyway, hey, I want to thank everybody. Oh, yeah, one other thing, one other point. There's another channel on YouTube by the Angry Astronaut. Now, he's made a claim that this interstellar object that hit the ocean comes from basically the same region in the sky. Think about that. As the WOW signal and as 3I Atlas. And he says that Avi Loeb is continuing to research this. Since, I did a video on that, on the spherules they found. Well, a lot of these spherules are got a lot of kind of materials, beryllium and things that you might find in a nuclear reactor. Was this, as Angry Astronaut posits, perhaps a technological device hidden in an asteroid that penetrated our atmosphere because maybe it failed? Or maybe it didn't fail. Maybe it got all the data it wanted coming in. Should it be? Now, part of the evidence they claim is not only the strange notion of the spherules, but the fact that they're not finding the spherules outside the area where this impact took place. Because a lot of people say, well, these spherules come from this, that, and the other. But apparently, the little magnetic sledge that they were moving over the seafloor to pick this stuff up, they only got it in the area of the impact, not anywhere around. So I don't know, my friends. It's getting stranger by the day. Now it was a fair, it was the same region, kind of sort of, but there was some more angular displacement between the spacecraft and the wow signal for this object than there was between the two. But if there are technological devices, there could have been some maneuvering. I don't know, my friends. And then again, maybe the wow signal was a signal to one of these two devices. Maybe the parent, the originator of that signal is still on its way. One of the things about that wow signal was it was blue shifted. Forgot to mention that. That means it was moving toward us. Most things in the universe here are flying apart, but that was moving toward us. Hmm. Yes, keep looking up, my friends. Don't tell what we're going to see in the skies. Hopefully, it's all good. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. Greg out.